So another family that we have here is the family of Edwin, a father of two. He's going to be telling us a bit about his life here in the UK and his upbringing, and a bit about himself and his family as he came here at an early stage. So, Edwin, how are you? And tell us a bit about yourself.
Hi, so my name is Edwin Bwambale, Edwin Matthew Bwambale. 37 something male. I come from Uganda, born and bred in Uganda. Family of probably say 6. Only child here. All my siblings are back home, apart from one that's in Canada. Mom and dad passed away, so currently just me, or just me and the siblings. Been here for what, 20 something years, 21 years now. Came here when I was 16 to live with mom. I come from Kasese, so I was born in Kampala, but I come from Kasese. My dad is originally a Mukonjo, so I'm half Mukonjo, half Muganda, but technically Mukonjo. I do speak 3 languages, but I mainly understand Luganda and English. And
So, having been raised by a single parent, being your mother, what were the challenges that you faced and she faced whilst being brought up?
growing up was kind of interesting. I mean, growing up back home is different because you're free spirit, you know, you've lived with auntie to auntie, auntie to auntie, uncle to uncle, so you live in different places. However, you know, you're still following the cultures, you're still, you know, doing the whole respect, the culture, the understanding, everything is pretty much back home, so you're kind of entwined in that growing up environment. Whereas coming here when I was 16, I didn't know what to expect. Now, I was excited to come and live with mom because it had been a very, very long time without being with mom. So I was excited, but I was blitzed to what I was kind of walking into. And as a child, you're expecting, you know, UK or London, as most people call it, to just be a place full of magic. So when I arrived here, it was the opposite of what I thought it was going to be. The restrictions are different. You're just living with you and mom, so there isn't pretty much anybody else. And you have to adapt to this brand new Western culture where you gotta follow different rules. So you're opened up to a new world and you have to fit in whether you like it or not. You have to adjust and follow rules whether you like it or not. So yeah, it was a very, very big change. It was shocking, but I think the fact that I wanted to come and live with mom, or the fact that I was coming to live with mom, just made things a little bit more easier, that she was my go-to person. And even though it was just the two of us to begin with, it just blended in. So I basically had to adapt as quickly as I landed. That's kind of tricky. That's definitely kind of tricky. I still had to do the normal greeting. I still had to do the normal respect. The normal respecting of a parent. The food changed. You know, the food definitely changed. The language, where I was, you know, embedded in Luganda and I could, you know, just freelance and express. I had to then adopt English full time because it was mainly Luganda with mom, but English everywhere else. So even though it was the usual norm, it had to become a full-time norm this time, because that was the only way around, you know. So yeah, you just had to. Now that's quite interesting, because when I came and when I started college, it was very, very shocking. The behavior in schools, the adjustment, the language, the accents, the way you fit in, the way you behave, the way you're talking, the way other people are talking to you. It was like a wake-up call, because you either had to fit in and act like everybody else, or stay in your corner and get bullied. in that sense. So I did get picked on because of my accent. Did get picked on because of the way I dressed, because of the way I looked. So there was a lot of change, and it became a bit of a struggle, but I had to sort of adjust quickly so I could actually fit in and be like everybody else.
Yeah.
I would probably say yes, and that's a big yes. And the reason I had to adapt to that is because, again, culture-wise, we didn't have that, so I didn't grow up with that. Now, when I say it took me a long while to actually build that bond with my mother so I can actually tell her, I'm talking a good few years down the line. So I'm talking in my 20s, I'm talking 25, 26, going upwards. That's when I actually got that bond. So now that I've got kids, 8 years on, I've had to adopt that in their understanding, I want them to be as comfortable as anything else, to come and talk to me, to come and tell me stuff, to come and, feel free to express whatever it is that is bothering them or is going on in their lives. And to me, that is something we don't have, something we never get back home. So hence why I sort of froze, and I just didn't want my kids to go through the same thing. So I had to open up that little portal as a little safety net.
And also, how well would you say you've raised your kids, and were there any challenges and any differences or things that you picked up from your mother?
I actually believe I do. I think we've got that daddy-son, daddy-daughter bond, and it's kind of cute. Very scary, but cute, because you know them and you sort of see them changing or transitioning, and it kind of does scare you. But I think it's really, really good that you know when something is not taken right. If you raise your kids from an early stage and they know what's right and wrong, they sort of experience your hardships, and they can differentiate. They can differentiate between what's right and wrong from an early age. Then you're sort of on the right track of parenting. It's not perfect. You're not going to do it right. However, making them understand that from when they're younger plays a bigger part. So we had that. We knew what was right and wrong, and coming here, that definitely helped me a lot, because I knew how to respect parents. I knew if you were an uncle coming home, I had to greet in a certain way. I knew if you were an auntie coming home, at 17, at 18, I used to kneel down. At 30, I still knelt down and greeted my mom. Believe it or not, I'm a boy, but 30 years old, I still knelt down and greeted my mom. That was pure respect. She didn't have to tell me that. She didn't have to, but that's what I've grown up with. So it just goes to show that what you implant in a child's mind at an early stage sort of carries on. And if I'm to talk to my kids, I will teach them that uncle, auntie, respect. It doesn't matter who they are, respect. This is bad. These are the consequences. This is what could happen. This doesn't make you feel good. This doesn't look right. And being 8 and 7, or being 8 and 6, sorry, they do adapt quickly, and they do learn, and they do watch. And you sort of keep them in that frenzy, in that environment that you talk about stuff, you touch little subjects bit by bit. Say, for instance, you're watching a movie and something pops up, you have to learn twisting it. You don't shy them away from it or hide them away from it. You have to learn twisting it, because that's where it starts. Curious minds, very curious minds, and if you don't give them that platform to express and come to you when they don't understand something, then you're opening up a very, very, very big, I'd probably say a big gigantic ball, like safe zone, like safe ball for you guys to interact, and that's how they get to understand you. That's how they get to understand what's going on. If I come and tell my daughter, don't jump off the stairs because A, B, C, and Z is going to happen, she's either going to understand it or she's going to jump off the stairs, and the consequences of that is you didn't listen. So I had to adjust to that. My mom telling me, don't do this because of this, don't follow this because of this. I saw it on TV, I knew what the repercussions could be, I'd seen it on the streets, so I knew what could happen. So I had to learn, I had to go back and, you know, look back at the respect, look back at the listening, look back at the, just analyze different things. And that's what kept me on track. That's what kept me away from the streets. That's what kept me away from the craziness, the madness, the, you know, don't get me wrong, every child is rebellious, but I think I respected my mom so much, and I valued the relationship we had between the two of us so much that she was my go-to, and I was scared of her. You know, I was scared of her. Not that she could have, you know, but she would have if she had the choice. So that upbringing just meant I knew and I had to, because she had told me. And if I hadn't, then I would have been a statistic. I would have been an example. I would have been talk of the village, or talk of the community. So all of that in mind, and self-respect just meant, hang on a second, I'm coming from here, I need to uphold that. I have to hold up my mom's name, you know. If you do not, and I'm going to emphasize on that, if you do not create that bond, however difficult it might be, that bond is very, 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 very important, because we have traditions, we have cultures where a child is not spoken to because they're just a child. A child is not meant to understand because they're just a child. A child is meant to listen because they're just a child. But we forget that these kids have got different mindsets. These kids have got different understandings. These kids process things differently. These kids probably need that, that love, and parents tend to forget that part. And without that, you're definitely going to have some derailment somewhere. So your child is going to go off track. Your child is going to become, because they don't have that understanding, and that's where it starts from.
So is growing your hair in your culture accepted, and what was the initial reaction having grown your hair?
Growing up back home, there's things the things that are taboo. You don't have that. It's taboo. You just can't. Growing hair, smoking, piercing your ears, you know. There's just the norms that are just a no-go zone. And coming here, you're exposed to so much that you just want to try everything. So I got here, and of course I was curious. What kind of kid wouldn't be? And I remember having that conversation with my mom. Mom, I want to grow my hair. Yeah, that was a very interesting conversation that we probably never spoke about it for a good 2 years. And it kind of put me off because I had to understand, or I had to live in fear. So I had to do both at the same time. Live in fear of what's going to happen if I do it. However, I also know I need to respect her because she knows best. And I then came back and asked her, this was probably 2 years down the line, I'm going to start doing my hair. And the response I got this time was different. Now, that could have been because I just showed up and I just come to the country and I didn't know anything. And she just wanted this sweet, little looking innocent boy. Or it was a case of on whose watch, you know, how are you going to do that? You're a boy. But 2 years down the line, I got a different reaction. So I started coloring my hair. So I did my hair. And she was okay with it because we had created that bond. We had that understanding. So she was okay with it. I did pierce my ear, and there was no issue with that. So it's just that shock I think you get when you just turn up and do something, and parents dislike that so much that even if they could have understood you or understood where you're coming from. So when I created that bond, I was then able to have the freedom, and she just embraced it. So I started growing my hair since 2004 and did different things, and I didn't have an issue with it because we had that little bond of understanding. And yeah, I think that simplified things a bit. So I think the culture shock was when I went back home to my grandparents, to my aunties, and it was very different. So I then had to understand where my grandma couldn't say hello to me because of my hair. It was scary, it was shocking, and it was heartbreaking. But I had to understand the culture side of it, that I'm in the West, we're in Africa, it's going to be totally different results. Even though she grew to understand it, it was just heartbreaking that, she didn't accept me for who I am. And that's what I meant by kids will pick up on what you say. If you don't understand them in a sense, then that's where the rebelliousness comes in, and you're just gonna have a different person on your hands. And I think it's you. It starts with you.
Yeah.
Only thing I'm dying to do, I know where Mum's buried, but I don't know, or I don't remember where Dad's buried, because I was 9 years old and I've never been back. So I've got that literally torturing my mind, in a sense that I can go and see Mum, but I've actually never been able to see Dad. She knew, and she pointed me in the right directions, but obviously those directions didn't. Pretty much everybody on Dad's side is kind of passed away. But because it's more or less 8 to 9 hours journey, so just imagine from here to Scotland or from here to Wales, if you like, it's that far. It's not a journey people want to make, but I do have it in plans to do it properly, because I want my kids to go and find out where my dad was buried. I want my kids to go and see, where Dad comes from. They know where the mommy comes from, but they don't know where the daddy comes from. And that's something I want to, expose to them at a younger age, than, because then they will enjoy it, they will understand it, and they will get to want to experience it a bit more than when they're older. So that's probably a target for the next 3 years, give or take.